Ghirock Log IDs, and this is the Of Mechs and Men sort of talk. First off, Transformers aren't mechs, they're living things. At least in the fiction. So anyways, because of the E3 footage of Titanfall 2, and it's coming out the 28th of October, I wanted to go back and play the game and see how good it is, and it's amazing. Still. It's a fun game, still is. And not since Mech Assault Lone Wolf have I played a game that really put the pilot experience, getting out of a mech is really a cool thing that you don't really get to do a lot. But like, there are numerous games where you get out of jets and vehicles and you just go on your merry way and you go back into other vehicles, and it's good that they did that well. And it's, in Titanfall's case, it's one of the few games that I can think of, like, ever, that's not an import, and in first person, that you can punch with a mech. And that is, like, I didn't realize it's, like, super important. And it's also a mech game, or a game with mechs in it, that, that's still kind of hopefully able to be pulled out of oblivion. Because I don't know much about where Hawken is, but that's a fine game when there's people to it. But there's not, the whole being a pilot and jumping into a mech is an amazing experience. And I think it's something that's really cool. I remember watching some footage of a third-person Gundam game that was online where you were in, like, you did the same thing, where you were a pilot and you can go inside of your Gundam or your Zaku or your GM and you just played it out of that. I think that's cool. So I'm glad there's sort of at least a single game from recent times that does that. And hopefully the sequel does really well and stands up for at least a year till the next Battlefield and the next Call of Duty come out, and kind of fight with the Call of Duty and Battlefield coming out this year. So mechs. Mechs are dope. Why are they dope? Sometimes you don't need a reason to like things, you just like them, but I'll try and say that they're kind of unique in the fantasy sci-fi genre, because if you compare it to like superpowers or magic and stuff of that nature, they're all ways in which the normal human being becomes powerful, they become more fantastic and stuff like that. And I was sort of thinking, like, having a mech is kind of like a weird way of gaining superpower. You get stronger, you can survive in situations where a normal human couldn't, but you lose a little bit of your humanity because you're sort of moving in a way that you can't just easily translate. Alright, like if you got superpowers, you walk like a human, you punch like a human, you kick like a human. But as a mech, you have to it's like you're talking to the controls to use the mech. And I think that's kind of an interesting way to see how people deal with it. And I like first-person games, so I really like the mechs and Titanfall. It helps that they're actually good. I don't like them because I'm just like a fanboy, but it's really fun. And RTS games, StarCraft. There's a whole line of research that's called mech. That's Strat's mech, a Thor thing, and like Front Mission. Older Front Mission games have mechs in them, but I really want to feel like I'm inside of the thing. Like there's racing simulators, and there's flying simulators, and there's tank sims, and all that stuff. But mechs really haven't had that sort of treatment, at least, like, everywhere. But, I don't know a lot of foreign languages, especially, like, in Japan or whatever. where they're also a big thing, you know, like Gundams and Gunpla are a big thing, so I kind of am missing that entire part of this fandom, which is upsetting, so I'm glad that Titanfall exists. Though I read something that kind of made me a little bit, I was like, get the fuck out of here, like, they really, I don't know if they still do, but they at first didn't want to call them mechs. They're like, these are Titans. Titans. And I was like, whatever. But anyways. By the way, this is the shorthand for what makes a mech. A mech is, can I use a human-sized object on that thing? Like, can it operate? If you can't, it's not a mech. I mean, if you can't, it is a mech. Alright, just go with that. And you'll make your life a lot easier. Because, at least the Hulkbuster is kind of the one big, like, is it not? But it is. You know, you can't put, you just can't. It's mech. Let's just go with that. Alright, and kind of the super cool thing about the Titans in Titanfall is that you can punch with them. And you're thinking, like, it's got hands, you can punch with it. And there are a lot of games with mechs in them that you actually can't punch with them. But usually they have some other melee thing, like they kind of did it backwards. Like you can punch in the first one and then give you swords in the second one. But I mean, like even in a lot of games where you're just playing as a human, you don't get to punch stuff, and I think that's pretty cool. Cause you know, like since it is a vehicle, you're not gonna punch anything with your F-22 Raptor. And you can ram things, sure, with your M1A1 Abrams. I don't know if that's too many A's. And as far as I know, there's not an Outlaw Star game. So you're not gonna pull out an axe and an Uzi with your starship and fight in an asteroid. I hope that also becomes... Yeah. And why is punching cool? Because one thing, it's ridiculous. You need that hand to, like... Actually, I don't really need that hand. There is some mechs without arms, like in Mech Warrior. They just don't have arms. And it's not like you're shielding with it. But I guess if you... That's so lame. If you think about it, like... Because it's... Maybe you relate to it, and it's a lot easier to, like, quantify the damage. Like, okay, the armor on the left side of this tank is gone. You can't really see that from inside the thing, but since you can kind of see your limbs as the mech, you're like, oh, my left arm's gone. What the shit is going on over there? So, it's just a frame of reference. Like, you're punching with that arm, you kind of need it, so you could lose that in that punch, but you don't, because luckily there isn't part destruction in Titanfall, which is okay. They do the weak point thing, so that's fine. They kind of balanced out. And it's going on with the relating thing, like you know what a punch looks like, and it's cool to see. It's cool to see your character do something that you can in real life. And I think that's why customizing them to look a particular way and all that stuff is really, you know, important, because you're like, that's something I could probably go do, maybe. I don't know, punching is cool, so your mech punching is really cool. And so that kind of brings me to the divide and stuff. Like, did Strike ever punch anything? Oh man, Gundam Build Fighters is definitely like good example for this, because fucking dude, shit. I guess. Okay. So, in the beginning of mechs, like, they didn't really use guns or whatever, they just punched stuff. They used melee weapons. So maybe they had a beam, but it wasn't like their big thing. And then, like, everything before Seed is sort of like Dragon Ball. And everything after Seed is sort of like Dragon Ball Z. Maybe that makes more sense. And so I really appreciate that Titanfall is sort of like pre that. Like, with MS Team. So that's cool. Where it really, it champions like urban tactics and all that stuff. Because that stuff's really cool. Space combat games, I feel like, haven't really hit off because we don't have a lot of points of reference for how that can look cool. Because there's a few games that try to do that, but that was like their one thing, and I don't really want to play it anymore. Because it kind of is boring, and no one's really showing us how it can be cool. So relating to it, like looking at it, like, yeah, that's the thing. I don't want a UFC game with mechs. That's fine. I will appreciate Overgrowth if there was a mech mod or whatever. That's cool. But I don't like ground game. I don't want to see my mech do ground game. That's really important. And if there was a game like that, I would probably go. Because they would just break all the maps. So yeah. Looking at my notes. I hope there's shoulder tackles, just outside of the kill animations in Titanfall 2. And now that brings me to another thing because of Infinite Warfare. I was looking at that, and I was like, man, jet games again. And Battlefield 1, yeah, jet games. Those are cool. I like those. Those have been done really well. And to bring the two subjects together, I hope someone makes a really good Robotech game again or ever, because I really don't like mechs that fly with legs that never use their legs in a meaningful way. Sure, it's landing gear or whatever, but like, if you're in atmosphere and you have legs and you're not about to crash, why don't you fold them up or some shit so you can like, fix your air resistance stuff? That really bothers me. Yeah. So I hope there's a game that combines those two things with dope mech gameplay. I mean dope pilot gameplay. But that's probably forever. And Titanfall 2 and Titanfall is a game, if I said it earlier, I apologize. It's a game with a mech and not a mech game. And that's definitely biased because of my Armored Core experience, just playing that. I think Mech Warrior Online is a very good example of a modern mech game because I feel like what separates it from what Mech Warrior does that separates it from it and like a sort of just action game or like a shooter with mechs in it is it's cool to have them simulated in a way, like racing games like Forza and all that stuff. You have all these components that are part of your machine that you tweak and stuff and are different and they're personal to you. And I think that what kind of makes a really good mech game, just having all that stuff and having the feel right, you know, like Gundam Breaker 2. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do in that one, but it's sort of like it combines all the things you'd want in a just like a classic mech game, but puts a lot of action things in it. It makes it very dynamic and stuff, which is really cool. And Titanfall, you just you're just picking out a loadout. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just being stuck up about it. Maybe my opinion will change, but that's just how I feel about it right now. Oh god, I've done this thing for like 5 times, so I'm glad I kind of wrote notes and figured it all out. Anyways, I hope more people get into mechs. Another thing, robots are automated and mechs are manual. You can have a mech that at points becomes a robot, but that's kind of the thing. It's like, god damn it, so many squares and rectangles shit recently. God, anyways. I hope you guys like the Titanfall gameplay. I hope you guys are as excited for Titanfall 2 as I am. If you guys like to give a like, if you guys are a new sub, thanks for logging in. Ghirock logging out.
We're pulling even further ahead of the militia. You're doing a fine job. We've almost secured victory, but the insurgents aren't far behind. Let's stay on top and shut them down. That's how you settle the score. Nice move. Now finish the job.
You achieved multiple rating goals.